In a shocking turn of events at the FIFA U17 Women's World Cup 2025, Nigeria's Flamingos, the pride of African youth football, suffered a heavy 4-1 defeat against Canada in their group stage opener. For a team that has often carried Africa's hopes on the world stage, this result came as a huge disappointment to fans, analysts, and even the players themselves. But beyond the scoreline, what really went wrong? Was it tactical, mental, or just one of those bad days at the office? In this video, we'll break it all down: 5 key things to note from that painful defeat, what the stats reveal, what the performance actually showed, and what lessons Nigeria's young stars can take moving forward. Let's dive in. 1 Early shock: how Canada's quick start destroyed Nigeria's game plan. The game hadn't even settled when Nigeria found themselves behind. In just the second minute, Canada struck first through Gabriella Ristoki, after a brilliant run and cross by Molly Hale. It was a nightmare start and it completely shattered Nigeria's tactical rhythm. Coach Bankole Oluwaseun had set up his girls to control the early stages, play compactly, and grow into the match. But conceding that early forced them to chase the game far earlier than planned. When you concede that quickly in youth football, it's more than a tactical issue, it becomes psychological. The players suddenly lose composure, defenders hesitate, and midfielders rush decisions. For the next 20 minutes, Nigeria tried to rebuild shape. But Canada smelled blood, pressing aggressively, exploiting spaces behind Nigeria's full-backs, and targeting goalkeeper Elizabeth Boniface with high crosses. You could see from the body language Nigeria was shaken. Early goals can decide youth matches, and this was a prime example. It changed everything. Still, the girls showed character, and that brings us to the next point. 2 moments of promise: Queen Joseph's goal and Nigeria's bright spell. Despite the early blow, Nigeria gradually grew into the game. By the 25th minute, the Flamingos began stringing passes together. Their midfield pairing Keosa Adolanuaju and Queen Joseph started dictating tempo. Then, in the 30th minute, came the moment of joy. A long-range effort from Olanuaju slipped through the Canadian goalkeeper's hands, and Queen Joseph reacted quickest to tuck in the rebound. It was 1-1. The equalizer gave the team confidence. For the next 10-15 minutes, Nigeria looked like the side everyone expected: quick on the counter, pressing high, and winning second balls. Their left winger Chiamaka Akwachukwu was dangerous on the flank, stretching Canada's defense and creating 2 half chances that almost turned the game around. But that's where the difference showed. Nigeria had momentum yet couldn't capitalize. No cutting edge in the final third, no second goal to reward their pressure. And in football, when you don't take your chances, the opponent will. 3 second half collapse, costly defensive lapses. The second half was all about discipline and organization, and sadly, Nigeria lost both. At halftime, the score was 1-1, and optimism still lingered. But Canada came out of the tunnel hungrier, faster, and sharper. In the 73rd minute, substitute Melissa Kekik fired Canada back in front, a well-placed low strike that exposed gaps in Nigeria's backline. Then disaster struck again. In the 80th minute, goalkeeper Elizabeth Boniface mishandled a routine shot, spilling it into the path of Julia Amire, who tapped home Canada's third. At that moment, the game slipped completely away. You could see the players' heads drop. Confidence evaporated. And in the 86th minute, Amire struck again, capitalizing on poor marking from a corner to make it 4-1. In less than 15 minutes, Nigeria went from holding their own to being completely overwhelmed. It wasn't because they were technically inferior, it was about focus, structure, and composure. Every goal Canada scored in that half came from avoidable mistakes, lapses of concentration that are common at youth level but costly at international tournaments. And those errors turned a competitive match into a rout. For the numbers don't tell the whole story. Here's the interesting part: statistically, Nigeria were not outplayed as badly as the scoreline suggests. Match stats: possession, Canada 52.8%, Nigeria 47.2%. Total shots, Nigeria 16, Canada 10. Shots on target, Canada 7, Nigeria 4. pass accuracy, Nigeria 76%, Canada 78%. On paper, Nigeria actually competed. They even attempted more shots. So what went wrong? It comes down to quality in both boxes. Canada were more efficient, Nigeria were not. Every Canadian attack looked dangerous, every Nigerian chance looked rushed. Nigeria dominated stretches of possession but failed to turn that into real threat. Canada, on the other hand, were ruthless. It's a painful but valuable reminder. Football is not about who plays more beautifully, it's about who makes fewer mistakes and takes their chances. That's why the stats look close, but the scoreboard doesn't. 5 lessons in the road ahead, turning pain into progress. This defeat should not define the Flamingos. It should teach them. Nigeria's U17 girls have a strong history at this tournament. Remember, in 2022, they made it all the way to the semi-finals, finishing third after beating Germany in a thrilling bronze medal shootout. That generation proved that Nigerian talent is world class when properly guided. This 2025 squad may be younger, less experienced, but the potential is there. So what can they learn from this 4-1 defeat? Let's break down the 5 key lessons. Lesson 1. Defensive discipline is everything. At the global stage, 1 lapse equals 1 goal. Nigeria must maintain compactness for 90 minutes, not just 60. Young defenders like Blessing Sunday and Emerichi Ude have talent, but they must learn positioning and communication at this level. Lesson 2. Game management matters. When you equalize, don't get carried away. The best teams know how to slow the game down, control tempo, frustrate the opponent, and protect their momentum. Nigeria pushed too hard after 1-1, leaving gaps behind, and Canada punished that. Lesson 3. Efficiency in attack wins games. Nigeria had 16 attempts, but only 4 on target. At this level, you can't waste chances. Players like Olanwuaju, Joseph, and Akwachukwu must refine their final ball and composure under pressure. Lesson 4. Mental strength and recovery. After Canada's third goal, the team visibly deflated. That mental reaction turned a bad game into a disastrous one. Young players must learn emotional control, the ability to respond to setbacks without panic. That's how great teams are built. Lesson 5. Trust the process. Yes, the scoreline hurts. But remember, the Flamingos are developing. These tournaments are about experience, exposure, and growth. Losing to Canada doesn't erase Nigeria's progress, it highlights what still needs work. If the coaching staff uses this loss wisely, it can be the wake-up call that turns these girls into future Super Falcons. After the final whistle, the scenes were emotional. Some players broke down in tears. Others stood still, staring at the scoreboard. Coach Bankole Loakir comforted his players, reminding them that one game doesn't define their tournament or their careers. We played well in moments, but lapses cost us. We'll go back, correct our mistakes, and come back stronger. And that's the right attitude. Nigeria's next group game will test whether those words become reality. Fans, too, must show patience because these are 15 to 17-year-old girls learning on one of the biggest stages in world football. Nigeria's defeat to Canada also says something about global women's football. The rest of the world is catching up and in many cases, overtaking traditional powerhouses. Canada's U17 program is built on structure, sports science, and tactical consistency from U13 level upward. Nigeria, on the other hand, still relies heavily on natural talent and short preparation windows. That gap in preparation, not inability, often shows up at major tournaments. To truly dominate globally, Nigeria must invest more in grassroots coaching, player psychology, and modern training methods. Because the raw talent is never the issue, it's the structure that determines how far that talent goes. So yes, the Flamingos fell 4-1. It hurts. But it's also a mirror showing both what Nigeria already has and what still needs fixing. From the first whistle to the last, this match was a story of brilliance undone by inexperience, effort undone by errors, and talent that still needs fine-tuning. Canada were simply more mature, more efficient, and more ruthless. Nigeria must take the pain, learn from it, and rebuild for the next match because one result does not define a generation. It only defines how they respond. If you enjoyed this deep dive, hit that subscribe button, leave a comment with your thoughts. What did you think went wrong for Nigeria? Was it tactics, inexperience, or simply a better Canadian side? Drop your thoughts below. And remember, the Flamingos have fallen before and risen again. This could be another chapter in their long journey to greatness. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.